Hey, what's up everybody? All right, I got a pro tip for you today. Short video, real fast. I want to break down this idea of how you can overcome cravings, food cravings, because I know that's a huge issue for a lot of people. They're Friday night rolls around, you're out with friends, they're getting, I don't know, whatever they get, and it's hard. It's hard not to give in to that, right? So I wanted to give you a pro tip on how to overcome it. This isn't going to be like tactical things you can do as far as like take this supplement and whatever. There's a lot of different things. I mean, drinking water is great before you eat your meal, right? But this is like mental stuff. This is like how to actually like get to the root of it so you can actually address the cravings so the cravings go away. So here's the tip. You're going to see I'm going to talk about three things here, of course. But the tip is you got to get to the root of it. You actually have to figure out what you're experiencing. Because in America, at least, maybe in other countries too, but I know in the United States, we eat all the time. When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're hungry, when we're tired, when we're bored, we just eat, right? And we chalk it up to hunger most of the time, right? So like we say, oh, I'm hungry, let me grab something to eat. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm hungry, let me grab something to eat. 7 o'clock at night, I'm hungry. 12 o'clock for lunch, I'm hungry, right? We use this word hunger a lot. So the key is to actually identify what you're experiencing, okay? So here's a pro tip. Get to the root of what you're experiencing. Here I like to just classify it 3 simple ways to look at it. Anything you experience with food, you're going to classify it under one of these things, okay? There may be more, we can talk about it different ways, but this is an easy way to think about it. First one is hunger, okay? So you first have to identify, what am I feeling actually, okay? So first one is, am I feeling hungry? We'll just call it hunger, okay? The second one is an empty stomach. Okay, and I'm going to define these for you. Third one is cravings. A craving, okay? So what is hunger? I'm going to teach you why this is important to identify this, because you got to get to the root cause of it so that the craving can actually go away. You're not coping with it day after day after day, trying to just white knuckle it to get through it. So if it's hunger is basically a lack of nutrients. Okay, so this is like true hunger, like you're tired, you're weak, you're famished, you're like, I am exhausted. Like you've been working in the yard all day and you're like at the end of the day or lunchtime rolls around, you're like, man, I got to get something to eat, right? You got to identify, is it actually hunger? Because if it is, you need to then say, what does my body need? Okay, so if it needs protein, give it some protein. If it needs more water and electrolytes, give it some salt. You know, drink a little water with some pink Himalayan salt in it, which is usually actually the biggest case of why people feel hungry is actually dehydration. Is it you didn't eat a great meal? You know, maybe that's what it was, is you need to identify like what your meal consisted of. Was it very good? And so you're actually lacking nutrients, so it's making you feel hungry, okay? So that's the first one. You need to identify is it an empty stomach? There's a principle called intermittent fasting. A lot of people use it. It's really powerful. So many benefits of it. Zayda, how's it going? Good to see you. So it's really beneficial to do intermittent fasting. And so you're skipping breakfast or whatever meal you're skipping or doing it, and you're going to have an empty stomach, but that doesn't mean you're actually hungry, right? Your empty stomach's just empty. Everyone's felt an empty stomach, but they're not really hungry, right? You skip meals and you're fine. A lot of people have the experience of going without food for a time. Doesn't mean you're actually hungry. It just means you have an empty stomach. So drink some water, sip on some broth, some actual chicken bone broth, you know, sparkling water, herbal tea, lemon water, you know, something like that can help fill the stomach. Fiber is a great way. You can get some psyllium fiber, let it sit and eat it like pudding, right? It's just fiber. Anyway, so empty stomach, because if you have an empty stomach, just drink some water. You can get through that, right? It's not a big deal. Now we talk about cravings. Cravings are generally emotional based. So I'll just put emotional here. Okay? So they're generally emotional based. And why this is important is because if you can identify the craving and that it's different from hunger, you're going to give your body real nutrients. You're going to give it some protein, or maybe go eat a carrot, grab an apple, like give it something, right? It's going to need it. Empty stomach, you don't need anything. Just go on with your day, drink some sparkling water, fill your stomach up with water or something like that. You'll be fine. You don't have to eat, because a lot of times if we just eat every time we feel something, we're going to be overweight. Now, craving, here's what you want to start doing with cravings, is you want to identify the why, the cause, right? What's really going on? So you start asking yourself, what am I feeling? Because cravings are usually emotional based or habitual, and that's usually emotion as well. We've created a habit based on an emotion, like 3 o'clock rolls around, usually you have a snack, right? It's a habit. Well, why do you have a snack? Usually, it's I'm bored, I'm tired, I've had a long stressful day, that's why you have snacks. So you create a habit. You're out with friends. It's normal to eat snacks when you're out with friends, or to get drinks, or to have dessert, right? So you eat snacks. It's an emotional experience there, right? And sometimes we're bored, sometimes we're tired, sometimes we're upset, sometimes we're stressed, sometimes we feel like we're in a pinch financially. We just did our budget, so we crave something, right? We had an argument with our spouse. Well, we want to eat something, right? It makes us feel better. And our brain's always wanting to feel better. Dopamine is a real thing. It's going to make you crave food. So you have to identify what you're craving, because if you're bored, or if you're tired, or you're stressed, or you're annoyed, or you're angry, or you're happy and you're excited, you want to identify what you're experiencing, because then you can say, why am I craving this food? I call them triggers. Why do I have a trigger to eat food? What's the emotion that's causing me to take a nap? If you're bored, call somebody, text somebody, go do a project. If you're angry, try to resolve that, right? Work with the person, talk to someone. If you're lonely, call a friend, text somebody, read a book, right? There's all sorts of things you can do. Now, sometimes it doesn't directly correlate, right? Tired and naps, like you can resolve that very easily. Sometimes it's just a matter of go for a walk, drink some water, text a friend, talk with somebody, read a book, write out 10 things you're grateful for, do some breathing, anything, then use food. I mean, there's so many, not anything, but there's so many other healthy ways than just using food to cope with our emotions, right? And so here's an interesting tip. When you cope with food, or anything for that matter, if you have low energy, or you're stressed and you cope with food, or you drink a Red Bull or whatever it is, your brain, and this is true with if you take medication for pain, your brain will actually want to create the feeling it had before it got the high. Let me explain that. If you have low energy and you're fatigued, you drink a Red Bull or Monster Energy drink to fix that, your brain will want to create more fatigue to get the Red Bull. Does that make sense? If you have chronic pain and you take a medication to fix the chronic pain, your brain likes the medication, it likes the Red Bull, it likes the sugar hit, so it's going to create more of what it experienced before it got that. So you're going to have chronic pain. Your brain will create chronic fatigue. Your brain will create chronic pain. Your brain will create stress in your life, or stress inside your body, so that it gets sugar again. Your brain will create it. Really fascinating research on addiction that's just coming out. So that's why it's so important to identify what are you feeling, so that then you can do something about it. And find anything. Do some push-ups, go outside, take a walk, take some breath, do some stretches, do all sorts of stuff, okay? You got a million ways. There's a lot of ways to cope with stress, of course, but you have to identify what you're actually experiencing, and if you can, then all of a sudden it's really easy to deal with it. Because if you're actually hungry and you're lacking nutrients, which is not always the case, it's probably the lesser of the cases of these. Most people rarely have an empty stomach, and most people are not actually hungry. They might be feeling hungry. Once you get to a certain point, that's usually a blood sugar drop, which again could be hunger as far as lack of nutrients. But most of the time they fall into the cravings. So identify the craving, why you're having it, and go through it. Now I have should have mentioned this in the beginning. I've got a document that I give to my clients. I am happy to share that, but you got to comment below. You got to say, give me the document. It's called Overcoming Cravings and Hunger. And it's my process that I personally use to work through my emotional drivers, my cravings, my triggers that I have. How do I actually work through those things so that I can cope with them in a healthy way? I've overcome addictions, food addictions. I've gone to groups for it. I've all sorts of stuff. So it's a real thing, and I've dealt with it. So I have a document that is my process that I use as step by step. If you want it, comment below. I want the document, give me the document, or whatever you want to say to me. I'm happy to share. So comment below, I'll share that. But hopefully this helps. And I'll see you guys later. Let me know if you have any questions.